Imagine a world where those who follow the rules, work hard, and play fair are rewarded with success, recognition, and power. Seems fair, right? But now, look around you. Who is really on top, the most ethical, or the most ruthless? Those who adhere to morality, or those who manipulate the rules to their advantage? The brutal truth is that society sells an illusion. From childhood, you have been conditioned to believe that good always triumphs, that honest effort leads to success, and that justice is the foundation of the world. But Nietzsche saw reality differently, darker and more uncomfortable. For him, morality was nothing more than a tool of control, a force created to keep the weak in line while the true masters take what they want. That's why you see manipulators thriving. The most unscrupulous leaders dominate in politics. The most exploitative companies monopolize markets. The most selfish rise in the hierarchy, while the naive are left behind. The game has never been about merit, it has always been about power. And power belongs to those who understand this before others. Nietzsche called this the will to power, the raw force that separates those who command from those who obey. But most people never wake up to this truth. They prefer to believe in the comfortable lie that justice always prevails. Do you believe that too? Or are you ready to see the naked and raw reality? Because after this video, you may never see the world the same way again. Since you were born, you have been taught that the world is governed by justice. That if you work hard, are a good person, and act correctly, success will be inevitable. But stop and think, does this really reflect reality? Who is at the top? The most diligent, or the most strategic? The most just, or those who do not hesitate to manipulate? Society operates on the basis of a comfortable lie, the illusion of meritocracy. The concept is simple. Those who do everything right, who follow the rules and dedicate themselves honestly, will eventually be rewarded. But Nietzsche saw this belief as an illusion designed to keep the weak docile and the powerful in control. The truth is that history has never been written by the most just, but by the most relentless. Think of the greatest empires in human history. Rome did not become one of the greatest empires of the ancient world by being just, it conquered territories by destroying civilizations, enslaving peoples, and crushing anyone who opposed its dominion. The United States did not become a superpower by being ethical. Its rise was based on wars, exploitation, and economic domination. In the corporate world, industry giants did not reach the top by being charitable. Amazon, Google, Apple, all of these companies grew by eliminating competitors, manipulating markets, and prioritizing expansion above any moral consideration. But the most frightening thing is that this system is not a mistake. It was designed to work exactly this way. The French philosopher Michel Foucault observed that power is never distributed fairly. It is accumulated, concentrated, and protected by those who already possess it. The idea of a just world is a convenient narrative. Keeping people believing that success comes from goodness and hard work is the best way to ensure they do not rebel against the true owners of the game. Nietzsche went even further. He identified that traditional morality, the one that teaches values like humility, sacrifice, and resignation, are not a universal code of conduct. They are mechanisms created by the weak to contain the strong. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a system that glorifies submission and demonizes power. Those who follow this morality believe that ambition is wrong, that seeking one's own greatness is arrogance, and that challenging the system is immoral. But this mentality only serves to ensure that the true lords of the world remain in command. Meanwhile, those who reject this morality and embrace what Nietzsche called master morality are seen as cruel, arrogant, and dangerous. Yet, they are the ones who shape history. They are the ones who do not ask for permission, who impose their will on reality, and who create their own rules instead of obeying those imposed by others. They do not wait for justice, they take what they want. And that is why so many good people are trapped in miserable lives, while the most relentless dominate the world. Because while some believe in the rules, others break them. While some wait for recognition, others impose their presence. While some complain about injustice, others take advantage of it. The question that remains is, will you continue to believe in what you were taught? Or are you ready to face the truth? If there is one idea that defines Nietzsche's philosophy, it is the will to power. For him, everything in life, from biology to politics, from individual desires to large social structures, is driven by one essential force: the impulse to dominate, expand, and impose one's will on the world. The modern illusion is that people seek happiness, peace, or harmony. Nietzsche saw this as a convenient lie. What truly motivates individuals is not comfort, but ascent. Every form of life struggles to grow, conquer, and assert itself over others. The lion that kills to dominate a territory, the CEO who crushes competitors to expand his company, the politician who manipulates to stay in power, all are manifestations of the same brute force, the will to power. But here is the detail that separates winners from losers. Most people have this impulse repressed. Since childhood, you have been taught to contain your desires, to be humble, to respect limits imposed by others. You have been conditioned to believe that wanting more is wrong, that seeking power is dangerous, and that ambition is synonymous with greed. Meanwhile, those who understand the truth not only accept this impulse, they cultivate it. Nietzsche believed that the great conquerors of history, the revolutionary artists, the immortal leaders were those who did not fear their own will to power. They did not wait for permission. They did not conform to the rules imposed by slave morality. They did not cling to abstract concepts like justice or goodness when those ideals became obstacles to realizing their potential. And this brings us to a fundamental point. Power is not something that is given. It is not a prize awarded to the most diligent, or a reward for those who follow the rules. Power is something that is taken. If you look at history, you will see that the true victors were not those who waited for recognition, but those who imposed their presence. Alexander the Great did not ask for permission to conquer empires. Napoleon did not wait for a throne to be handed to him, he seized it. Steve Jobs did not seek approval when he decided to reinvent the technology industry. He ignored the criticism and did what he wanted. The difference between those who command and those who obey is simple. One understands that the world belongs to those who impose their, while others believe in the illusion that there is a fair system that will eventually reward them. Reality tells a different story, and this applies to everything, including the workplace. Have you noticed that the most dedicated employee is rarely the one who gets promoted? Meanwhile, the person who markets themselves better, who takes credit, and who plays by the rules of power tends to rise in the hierarchy. In the business world, companies that operate with aggression, strategy, and even manipulation dominate the markets. Those that insist on playing fair are often crushed by competition. Nietzsche saw this not as a flaw in the system, but as its very essence. The world was not made to be fair, it is a battlefield. And only those who embrace their will to power can shape reality to their advantage. Here is the uncomfortable truth that few dare to face. If you do not impose your will on the world, someone else will do it for you if you do not define your own values. Someone will impose theirs upon you if you do not play to win. You will merely be a pawn in someone else's game. One of the most powerful forces that keeps people trapped in a life of mediocrity is the morality imposed by the system. Since childhood, you have been taught to be humble, to avoid conflict, to put others before yourself, and to always follow the rules. You were told that being good is the path to success, and that acting with ethics and kindness will ensure that you are rewarded in the end. But Nietzsche unmasked this illusion. He realized that traditional morality is not a universal truth, it is a control mechanism, designed to keep the weak submissive and the strong restrained. Think about it. Who defined the rules that say ambition is bad? Who decided that wanting more is selfishness? Who implanted the idea that desiring power is evil? The answer is simple: those who are already at the top. The morality that dominates society is what Nietzsche called slave morality. It glorifies submission, obedience, and the renunciation of one's own interests. It teaches that being peaceful is a virtue, that accepting life's difficulties without question is a sign of strength, and that rejecting the desire for power makes you a better person. But who really benefits from this morality? Certainly not those who follow the rules. The brutal truth is this: slave morality was created by the weak to protect themselves from the strong. People without power fear those who have it, so they invent narratives that demonize anyone who dares to rise. For centuries, religious leaders have preached that humility is a virtue, that sacrifice is noble, and that accepting suffering in silence will make you worthy. Meanwhile, they themselves live in luxury and control the minds of millions. Governments preach justice and equality, but they are often the first to manipulate laws to ensure they remain in power. Nietzsche contrasted this with master morality, the morality of the strong, of those who shape the world, of those who are not afraid to embrace their desires. For these individuals, ambition is not something to be suppressed, it is fuel. The desire to grow and dominate is not something shameful, it is the essence of life. They do not live to please others, they live to expand their own power. Now look at history and ask yourself, who are the great names that changed the world? Were they those who submitted to the rules imposed by society? Or were they the ones who had the courage to challenge everything? Julius Caesar did not accept the limitations imposed by the Roman Senate, he destroyed them and became a dictator. Napoleon did not accept his position as a mere army officer, he seized power and rewrote the order of Europe. Steve Jobs did not accept that technology should follow a standard, he imposed his vision and redefined an entire industry. The problem is that when you are born immersed in slave morality, you don't even realize how much it limits your life. You feel guilty for wanting more. You feel wrong for desiring power. You're afraid of being seen as arrogant for standing out, because you have always been told that being good means lowering yourself, submitting, and being content with little. But Nietzsche saw this as a disease. He believed that human beings should seek their maximum potential, that they should break the chains imposed by this oppressive morality and embrace their true nature. If there is a fatal flaw that prevents most people from gaining power, it is the inability to control their emotions. Most act on impulse, react instinctively to provocations, and cling to romantic ideals about how the world should be. But Nietzsche saw this as weakness. For him, those who master the game of power are the ones who first control themselves, before trying to control the world. Look at history. The most influential men were not necessarily the most just or the most intelligent. They were the most strategic. While most people exhaust themselves trying to convince others that they are right, the true winners observe, analyze, and act only when the opportunity is perfect. The problem with most people is that they confuse strength with impulsiveness. They think being strong means reacting to every attack, responding to every provocation, and fighting every battle. But that is exactly what the weak do. True strategists choose their battles wisely. They know that every action must have a purpose, and that wasting energy on pointless conflicts is a form of self-sabotage. Nietzsche understood that power belongs to those who know how to play with human psychology. Most people are predictable. They react to anger with anger, to fear with fear, to pressure with despair. Those who master the game of power do the opposite. They use patience as a weapon, calmness as a shield, and silence as a tool for control. Want an example? Julius Caesar knew that his rise depended on the loyalty of the masses. So, he used every military victory to reinforce his image as an unbeatable leader. He did not waste time arguing or trying to justify his actions, he let the results speak for themselves. When his enemies attacked him politically, he did not react impulsively. He waited, bought time, built alliances, and when the right moment came, he destroyed his adversaries all at once. In the modern world, the logic is the same. The most successful CEOs are not the ones who work the hardest, but those who know what to do, when to act, and when to wait. The most powerful people are not those who shout the loudest, but those who speak less and observe more. That is the mistake most people make. They spend their energy trying to prove something to others. But true power does not lie in convincing others that you are strong. It lies in making them feel your strength, without you having to say anything. Nietzsche saw this as a matter of personal mastery. Those who control their own emotions also control the reactions of others. Those who are not affected by insults, provocations, or attacks gain the advantage, because they turn their adversaries' frustration into weakness. And here lies one of the greatest lessons in the game of power. The one who keeps a cool head while others despair, wins. While most act on impulse, the true masters of the game wait, observe, and strike at the exact moment. If power were merely a matter of domination and strategy alone, or being ruthless, might seem enough to ensure eternal success. But history shows that those who rise to the top often fall in the most brutal way. What once led them to victory often ends up being the very thing that destroys them. Nietzsche saw this as an inevitable cycle for those who fail to balance strength with wisdom. Take Julius Caesar, for example. He conquered Rome with his cunning, vision, and ability to manipulate both allies and enemies. But the same Senate he politically dominated eventually turned against him. Caesar was stabbed to death by those who once supported him, including Brutus, someone he considered almost a son. His ruthlessness and desire for absolute control created too many enemies. And in the end, he lost everything. Napoleon followed a similar path. He swept through Europe with speed and military intelligence never seen before. But his ambition blinded him. He didn't know when to stop. When he invaded Russia, he ignored all warnings about the risks of winter and the resistance he would face. His insatiable quest for more territory led to his downfall. He was exiled, humiliated, and died far from the glory he so desperately sought. And if you think this only happened in the past, look at the modern corporate world. Business leaders who built empires are often destroyed by their own creations. Jeff Skilling of Enron manipulated markets and seemed untouchable, until the scandal broke and he ended up in prison. Elizabeth Holmes promised to revolutionize medicine with Theranos, but her hunger for power led her to forge results until everything collapsed. The lesson is clear. Ruthlessness without control destroys even the most powerful. Nietzsche understood that absolute power can lead to blindness. When someone believes they are above the rules, that they will never be toppled, and that their strength is unquestionable, they stop seeing the risks. They begin making mistakes they would have never made before. They underestimate opponents. They create enemies without realizing it. And when they finally do realize, it's already too late. But is there a way to avoid this fall? Yes. And Nietzsche pointed to the answer: balance. A true master of power is not only strong, he is wise. He understands that winning is only half the game. The other half is knowing when to stop, when to consolidate dominance instead of expanding endlessly, when to eliminate enemies, and when to turn them into allies. Those who fall are the ones who confuse power with invincibility, those who keep rising until the sheer weight of their arrogance causes them to collapse. At this point, one thing should be clear. The world is not a fairy tale where the most virtuous win. Power does not reward goodness. It rewards strategic intelligence, boldness, and the ability to play by the rules of the game, or rather, to rewrite them when necessary. But does that mean you must abandon all morality? That you need to become an unrelenting tyrant just to carve out your space? That is the trap many fall into. Power destroys those who treat it merely as a weapon. Nietzsche never preached blind tyranny. He saw power as an instrument of transformation. A means to forge your own path without becoming a slave to greed or destruction. The true winner is not the one who simply takes power, but the one who knows how to maintain it. This means finding the balance between strategy and emotional intelligence, knowing when to be ruthless, and when to be calculatedly generous, when to attack, and when to retreat, when to silence your enemies, and when to make them useful. The problem for most people, the problem is that they live in extremes. Some spend their entire lives being exploited, believing that the world will eventually reward their goodness. Others, upon awakening to the reality of power, plunge into a path of destruction and paranoia, until they become victims of their own brutality. But there is a third way, the way of those who understand the game, yet do not allow themselves to be consumed by it. The great truth is this: you can live believing in justice and remain a pawn on someone else's board. Or you can accept reality, learn the true rules of power, and consciously decide how to play the game. If this video has helped you see reality differently, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Power is not asked for, it is taken. See you in the next video.